Hello, I just came from the cosplay contest. Um, so I feel like shit from last night because I went to sleep at like 3 a.m. But anyway, let's try to see if this works. Oh god, I'm recorded. Hi. Hi, I'm Nikolai Berbece, and I am a self-proclaimed designer, but I don't use a Mac, so I'm not sure how valid that is. And I founded a company called Those Awesome Guys, and that's like a super small team from all over the world, and we make silly games. And I think most of them are actually here in this room right now. It's like half of the audience. Um, we made a game called Move or Die, and Move or Die is basically fairly successful game, and I'm gonna talk about why the game was successful because I'm still not entirely sure. But Move or Die is a multiplayer. God, my slides are shit. It's a multiplayer competitive friendship ruining party game, and that says a lot because it looks like this. It's very fast paced, and people react to it like this. And that was recorded at I think PAX 3 years ago. So 2010, we have to like go back in time. I used to make a lot of Flash games, and I grew up on Newgrounds, and I made weird games like a game where you have to play with two characters at the same time, and then a game where you have to literally punch your keyboard, and then a competitive drinking game where you play as a vulture, and a game where it's a fighting game with microphones, so you have to yell and slap microphones. But I also made a little game called Concern Joe, and that was a single player puzzle platformer with narration, which is kind of unusual for a Flash game. And it came out, I think, in 2011 or so. Don't quote me on that. Anyway, we noticed that a lot of players were playing the game over and over again, and it made no sense for a story-based Flash game. And I wasn't really happy with it either because it was kind of laggy, it was mediocre. So um, I figured I should make a reimagining of the game. So I started working on like a new version of Concern Joe with a new engine, new graphics, new everything from scratch. And we were in the process of figuring out which engines to use or which programming languages. And we didn't use Unity back then because it didn't have dedicated 2D support. So apparently that was a thing for us. And Unreal was way too big for what we wanted to do. So we tried C++. And after about 3 weeks of development, we had this. Yeah, no. And then we landed on a little framework called Love 2D, which is an open source framework running on Lua. And it's not just the scripting parts of the game running on Lua, it's the whole damn game. And I'm not a programmer, and even I know that that's a pretty stupid thing to do. But yeah, we started working on the games, and we made a lot of questionable decisions in the process. For example, we were like, oh, there's this thing called Steam. Pff, fuck Steam. We were going to make our own distribution platform. So we made our own distribution platform where you would basically have your credentials. They were properly salted and everything. And basically, you would download a version of the game uploaded on our server. So for each file in the game, you would send an HTTP request for our server. So we were DDoSing ourselves. Not smart. Anyway, Concern Joe, single player game, puzzles and everything. And one night I was like, what if we had 3 more players? And we did that, and it turns out it's quite fun because we added this party mode in the game where you basically had a bunch of game modes that you go through rapidly, and it's fairly competitive. And I showed it to friends, and friends really liked the game because it's a different kind of game. It's the kind of game that works in a crowd. So it was like an instant success. So I told myself, oh, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna basically branch the party mode from Concern Joe. I'm gonna give it its own name and release it on Steam on its own. And my justification for that was that it would minigames are not remembered, so we would want to have like a standalone thing, and also it would let Move or Die grow on its own as a standalone game, and it would give us like a practice run to see how it feels to release a game, and then we would get back to our main project, Concern Joe. We didn't do that. Concern Joe kind of went into the dumpster, and our focus went entirely on Move or Die. But fast forwarding a little bit, we're in 2015, and it's been 4 years. We've been working on it for 4 years, and we've passed green light in like 3 weeks. Remember green light? And we passed green light in January 2015. But I was told by other developers that you only get one release. And what they mean by that is that your game either explodes during early access and you get a lot of sales, and then once the game actually comes out, you're going to get less sales, or the opposite, which is you basically keep it low during early access, and then you have a big explosion when the game comes out. And that was what we went for. And we did a bunch of unusual things. For example, we released the game in early access and we priced it higher than it would be on the final released version. Uh, and we made it very clear that this game is not finished. And we tried to put that everywhere in our marketing material. We kept a very low profile. We didn't yell about it a lot. And for example, if you would look up the trailers for Move or Die, you would see things like this. If you want to play the game when it's polished and done, wait until it comes out of early access. Do not buy it now. Check out the next video for some gameplay footage. Not sure if I'm pointing in the right way. But yeah, and all the videos were literally telling you, do not buy this game, which again, kind of unusual.
Cool. Yeah, I found some lights in my basement and they are mounted on my drum set cymbal supports. And I'm also diffusing the light with a napkin. And there's a lamp, and ignore the hairdryer. Yes, very professional indeed. Woo!
Yeah, that was my very indie setup of making trailers. Anyway, professionalism. So we hit early access, and in order to make it very clear that the game is unfinished, we made this thing where this screen would show up when you would launch the game, and this screen had a bunch of things on it. For example, it would tell you that what the best contributors were to the game in terms of players. We had recent changes that we added in the last patch and upcoming features. And my personal favorite thing was the actual progress bar at the bottom. This is just a JPEG, like I was updating this every patch. It's a visual representation of how far we are in development. And I think it's a kind of cool thing to do, so I would encourage other developers to do that. But we released two big updates during early access, the workshop update and the Sugar Rush update. And for example, the workshop update was strictly focused on mods and user-generated content. We added a very user-friendly level editor that you can use super easily, and I also made sure that the process of adding a new character is super streamlined with tutorials and wikis and all that, so it's super fast to make characters. And we do this thing where we encourage players to use mods by suggesting the top weekly mod at the end of every match. So we just pick a random mod from the top weekly list, and we show it in the corner at the end of each match. Around that time, I had a talk about how polished Move or Die was and the kind of things we did to make it feel good. And we also showcased it at a lot of events. And in the process of showcasing it at a lot of events, we had guys like Richard Hammer play our game at PAX. And then later that night, we ended up in his car, going to his Airbnb where we set a temporary streaming setup where they just play the game live. So that was pretty cool. Also, Northernline played the game at PAX, and then he followed up with a series of videos of him playing the game, which kind of totaled in almost 500,000 views. And Jesse Cox also played the game on the show floor, and then during the co-optional podcast, he kind of nodded.
Move or Die.
Oh yeah,
Move or Die is fun.
1 year anniversary update.
Twitch integration.
Yeah. But now we work with the guy, so it's all good. Also, the Giant Bomb guys played the game, and then they mentioned it on the panel.
One thing I really played, though, that I really liked at the Indie Mega booth was this thing called Move or Die.
Woo!
Yeah, we got the folks.
That was us. And also very weird things like we had these flyers and business cards at events, like giving them out for free, because that's what you do for promotional purposes. And then people would try to sell them for $28 on eBay. I think they're still up if you want to get them. But anyway, the release date came around, and I tried to do that one weird thing that Valve didn't let me do. In my head, I thought that if you take access away from the game from the players for a little while, it would create suspension of the game coming out. But they basically said no, so I didn't do that. But something to keep in mind. So that was 2015. The game came out. It came out in early 2016, and for those of you who haven't been through the process yet, this is how it feels to release a game on Steam.
Check this out.
Right? Anyway, version 1.0 came out, and we built a lot of features for the version 1.0 so we can have a big explosion, and we had new characters, new game modes. We had weird mechanics where you can still play after you die. We had a leveling up system, and it was this big content update. And we even got featured on the front page of Steam. And in the process of getting there, we also got a Metacritic. And for those of you who know, a Metacritic score is basically the average of the score from various reviews. And you need a minimum amount of reviews to get a Metacritic score. That minimum amount is 4. Which is exactly the number of reviews we got. And because most of them were popular, we ended up with a score of 80 for Move or Die, which puts us over, like, as good as Elite Dangerous, and even better than Kingdom Come Deliverance. So there's something to keep in mind. This is how the sales graph looked. There was like a huge spike, and the game was doing very well financially. However, I was still not happy because the game was very buggy, and it would crash a lot. So I told myself that I'm going to focus on 4 pillars that I want to fix about this game. So I'm going to focus on content, replay value, online gameplay, and marketing. And I want to tackle these things and make them better. So let's see, what's my, come on slides, you got this. Bam. So the update era started, and we wanted to keep a mentality of fuck paid DLC, because I hate microtransactions and I'm not a personal fan of them, so I wanted to have all the updates completely free. And around the time, I saw what Team Fortress were doing with what Valve was doing with Team Fortress 2, and they had these very cool thematic updates with their own website and their own logo, and it looked all cool, and I thought, I'm gonna steal that. So I stole that. And the first update was focused on replay value, and it was called the Mutators Update. And this was a very weird update because in order to promote it, I created a lot of mutators in the game that would change the rules and mechanics of the game on top of what was already existing. And the game was kind of getting more and more popular at events, and I even ended up on local TV for some reason, and that's the point where my mom realized that maybe I'm doing something worth my time. And what I did to promote the update was I got footage from a lot of YouTubers and streamers playing the game, and I edited it on the rhythm of the game's soundtrack.
Time to spice things up. Mutators. Change the way the game is played. Jetpacks, blind mode, deadly ghosts, double jumps, and many more.
So yeah, that was the promotional video, and it worked out pretty well. So that solved content, which was basically a shit ton of mutators and overall new levels, new characters. In terms of online, we added the ability to go to join ongoing matches. We added more local players in online games and a friends list. And in terms of marketing, we managed to convince a bunch of YouTubers to do voice acting for our game for free, which was amazing, including like the wine cone. Oh my god, anyway, Critical and a random Japanese dude from Fiverr. He's the funniest narrator ever. But there was a very specific thing that I wanted to keep consistent throughout all my trailers, and that was the ending of it, which said...
What the fuck? Oh my god, I forgot to move! This is the Mutator Update. All of this already in your Steam library right now. Available now on Steam.
So I wanted to make it very clear that the update is free and it's already in your Steam library, and every single trailer ended like that. Then came the next update, the viewers versus streamers update, and this update was all about marketing. And I'm just gonna play the trailer.
Aren't you tired of just watching streamers play games on Twitch? What if you could actually influence their game while they are playing it live? Everything you type shows up in the game. Pick what game modes the streamer will play. Vote for upcoming mutators. Try to kill the streamer by using lasers.
But yeah, with that, I played the game. Who here knows what Trace Chamber is? Oh my god, no one. So it's a super old game that basically focused on interaction with Twitch viewers, and I thought Move or Die would completely benefit from that. So I basically took the idea from Choice Chamber and I combined it with that game that I mentioned that you have to literally punch your keyboard. And what I did was I took the keyboard layout of any keyboard and I would put it on the screen in a game mode. And whatever viewer would press any key on the keyboard, a bomb would drop on that spot. And the first time we tested that was at PAX, live on stage with like, I think 10,000 live viewers or so, and it didn't catch on fire, but it looked like this.
Just run! They can't get us all!
Actually, yes, they can get us all.
I guess they can get us all.
It worked. It was awesome. And we also contacted a bunch of other developers, and we got approval to use their characters in Move or Die. So we got Shovel Knight in the Newgrounds, Tankman, and the Twitch logo. They didn't let me animate his eyes, so I'm still salty about that. And I convinced Egoraptor to be an announcer in the game, also for free. So think about that. And in terms of content, we added a new mutator, and I reached out to the developers behind Heavy Bullets, asking them if I can use their mechanic in Move or Die, and they said yes. So that was the start of me doing this over and over again. And around this time, I sent an email to Justin Roiland, which is the creator, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty, basically saying that, yo, can I use Rick and Morty in Move or Die? And that was it. So more updates. We released the Toxic update, which was all focused on online. In this update, we released an online chat, emotes, so you can be even saltier in the game. We added host migration and AFK bots. And in terms of content and replay, we added your regular thing with a lot of characters and a lot of levels. And around this time, Vodafone reached out to me, and they were like, yo, we're shooting a commercial for Vodafone right now. And the ad is basically about a dog who is in a shelter waiting for a perfect family to pick him up. Unfortunately, our dog is really into tech and hates old phones and television systems. So out of a sudden, here comes our hero Vodafone family with all the stuff he's into. One of the kids of our hero family is laying on the floor. The dog is around him, and the kid is playing something. Gosh, not something. Hopefully Move or Die on a tablet. So that's the context. And we were really trying to explain to them that Move or Die doesn't work on tablets. But they went with Pokemon Go, so it doesn't matter. And then we released my personal favorite update, the Best Value update, in September, which was, the whole update was themed like an infomercial. So this is a small snippet from the trailer.
Aren't you tired of waiting around for a new Move or Die update? Don't you wish there would be a new update announcement with a thematically mocking trailer? Well, it's your lucky day. We have exactly what you need, and what you need is the Best Value update.
Just to give you an idea of what you just watched, you watched some stock footage that I paid money for to remove the watermark so I can add it back in saying stock footage. Not smart. But yeah, content and replay value, we added a lot of new game modes and mutators, including the VVVVV mutator, again, with permission. And in terms of online, we added some abandoned penalties and basically making the whole experience better. But in terms of marketing, we managed to convince Lily Pichu to be an announcer in the game. And even though all the other updates were completely free, this was the only update that was free 99. And we did a very stupid thing. I went on Google, and apparently you can just buy hotline numbers. So I bought a number that looked like that, and it actually works. So if you call the number, you would hear this.
Welcome to the Move or Die Best Value Hotline. You weren't sure if that number was real. For 1 second, you thought, nah, they couldn't possibly register a phone number. Could they? Well, yes, we can. And we did.
And we got a lot of voice messages, and some of them are fucking hilarious, and I'm just gonna play like a super short selection of them.
I love the fact that you can move or die. Go f yourself. By far the best ad for a game. I just bought the 4-pack because of this.
Hey, so I think you should give me this game for free. My name in Steam is Hunt.
You guys got a... What? Wait, what number is this?
Why? Why did you guys feel that this was a good idea?
It wasn't. Or it was, I don't know. Anyway, also around this time, I got contacted by a random Chinese company asking us if we're okay with giving them the Move or Die IP so they can use in their shooter. Apparently, the company had a very big FPS game in China, and they wanted to have Move or Die as a loading screen in their game, like as a so our player can relax while playing some Move or Die. Yeah, interesting emails. And finally, at the end of the year, we released the non-denominational winter holiday update because we wanted to be politically correct and whatnot. And this was focused on replay value. It had teams for the first time. You could play like 2v2 or 3v1. And in terms of content, we added a bunch of game modes. And one of my personal favorites, Super Hot, again with permission. It actually works in Move or Die. It's so fun to steal other mechanics. Anyway, a lot of characters. We kept this tradition of just throwing a lot of ideas at the game. And also around this time, I realized that Shaq played Move or Die on the Twitch stage while Snoop Dogg was watching, which, I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird. But so came 2017, and we released our first year adventure anniversary, and we made some very cute graphics with inspired by Gravity Falls. And around this time, we had 105,000 100,000? Anyway, a lot of crashes. And we had 106 patches so far, while we got 338 Steam key requests on our email, and the piracy rate was around 44.7%. A lot of people were pirating the game, but I was perfectly fine with that because I made the game so people can play them. And then I got an email from Justin Roiland saying, okay. And that was fucking awesome because one thing I did was I spent in the extra time to actually create the Rick and Morty characters in the game and put them in the engine without making them public and showing them how their characters would look within our game, because I feel like it's important to basically, when you contact someone as big as Adult Swim, you have to tell them that, yo, you can trust me with your IP. So it was worth it. But they said that you can only use Rick and Morty if you release the Rick and Morty update on June 28th, which normally is an okay thing. However, the summer sale started on June 22nd, and we had a tradition of always lining up a big update when the summer sale started, because we would miss out on a lot of players otherwise. So we said, okay. And we did it, and in June, the Rick and Morty update came out, and just to give you an idea, obviously it was all about marketing, and I also made super short video about it. And because I later realized that Adult Swim was doing this with other games as well. Apparently they had cameos in Rocket League and like Gang Beasts and other big games, but we were one of the few to actually have a trailer for it. So whenever press would pick up the story, our trailer was the first one, and we got a lot of coverage because of that. Like a lot of coverage, which was awesome. But just to give you an idea, this is how a regular summer sale graph looks on Steam. You get like a huge spike at the beginning when players get super excited, and then they remember that, oh my god, the sale is ending, I should really buy those games, and you get another spike at the end. This is how our graph looked with the Rick and Morty update, which was released dead in center of the summer sale. So apparently it worked out. It even sold better than the initial spike, so this was a huge success, and it was really awesome. And moving on. Finally, in November, we released the Discord update, which it was just us partnering with the guys over at Discord, and again, it was all about marketing. I also made a silly trailer in their style of making trailers, and we added some functionalities where you can invite friends over from Discord, and we added their logos as playable characters. And the final update we released in 2017 was the Green and Gold update, which was the biggest update we've ever done. It was focusing on online and replay, and I'm just gonna play a little bit of the trailer.
Old man Nick's face did not seem that frightened.
That sounds pretty good,
He said with excitement, without any doubt or sense of remorse. He started to make a new update, of course.
Yes, that's me writing code on a piece of paper. yeah. So yeah, we added an in-game store because we wanted to unify the characters and game modes unlocking system on all platforms. So we made an in-game store, but because we have that fuck microtransactions mentality, we called it not a store, and the in-game currency not coins. And just to like nail the oh my god, I fucked that up. Just to hit the nail on the head. When you open the store for the first time, you see a video of my face basically explaining that there are no microtransactions in the game.
Okay, so you just clicked on something that we like to call not a store. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I want to make this very clear. There's absolutely no microtransactions in the entire game. This means that there's no way for you to pay real-world money to unlock any kind of content in the game. And we intend to keep it that way because just like you, we f***ing hate microtransactions. And that's why the design of the game hasn't been changed at all by this new addition, nor have the drop rates when you actually level up. That's why we like to call this section not a store and the in-game currency not coins.
Also had longer hair. But yeah, for the first time, we allowed mods to be used online, only in games with friends. And I think there's Ajit Pai in there somewhere. Anyway, that was a thing back then. And in terms of content, we added, you know what I'm about to say, a lot of shit. That was 2017, and we reached our 2nd year anniversary. And for our 2nd year anniversary, my friend Josh told me about a tool that you can use to basically, you know, when you have your project on Git and you have all the logs and history of all your changes, apparently you can visualize that in a very nice way. And I made a short video basically going through the entire development history of Move or Die, where every developer had a tiny head showing what files they were working on back then. So that was kind of cool. We also added consumables to the game, again, encouraging saltiness. And we had this very cool thing where you could set your character on fire. And because I'm kind of a cheap developer, I make my own sound effects. It's not a good idea. Please don't do this. But it worked out, and it sounded decent. So yeah. Anyway, around this time, we had half a million players in the game, and the game crashed around 240,000 times, and the piracy rate dropped to 37.3%, which was kind of weird because I still don't know why. But this was the whole sell graph for the entire game since it hit early access in the first day, basically up to today. And you notice that there's a lot of huge spikes, and all of those spikes were caused by a sale and a paired update for that sale. And we released all our updates completely free. And in the meantime, while we did this, our game was played in cinemas in a bunch of countries, like tournaments. We ended up being featured in the Blue Air magazine. I still don't know why. And a French quiz website stole our character as their loading screen. But I was finally happy. I was finally proud that I tackled all these pillars, and I could be proud of my game, and my game wouldn't crash anymore. So it was really cool. And a lot of people ask me, like, why do you think Move or Die was successful? And I still don't have like a proper answer for that. So what I tried to do was to ask the players of Move or Die, basically, why did you buy the game? Why did you think Move or Die was successful? And we got a lot of comments, and a lot of comments were pointing out specific things, like, oh, because it's you can play 4 players on the same keyboard, or because Markiplier play the game, or because of the humor and whatnot. And some players even made videos explaining to us why they think Move or Die was successful.
I think the successfulness of Move or Die came from how you advertised it. All of your videos were either incredibly hilarious or showed people actually having fun. There wasn't any Nintendo canned family fun on the couch bullshit.
And I saw Rick and Morty and I was like, hey, that's pretty good. And then I bought the game.
I like those little details in the game, like the characters' faces changing depending on their life bar, the little splashes when you die, which don't necessarily add something to the gameplay. I love the developers' closeness to the community.
And for the PC, it pretty much became the Steam party game.
So I noticed that there's a lot of different reasons for why people thought Move or Die was successful. However, there was one specific reason that was kind of echoed in most comments, and that was that it was basically us. We were the developers. It was our fault, basically, because of how we treated our players and because of how we treated the updates and the whole no microtransactions thing. And it wasn't exactly one thing. It was basically what we were doing, which is kind of scary for future projects, especially now that we're publishers and we have to recreate success for other games. However, throughout this whole journey and with all those updates and all those comments and my experience with development of this game, I reached the conclusion that both you and me, we should try to aspire to be the developers we would personally support as gamers. Thank you.